Scribes made up the very elite of the culture, the very highest echelons, the upper class of Egyptian culture. Egyptian high culture required literacy, and only 1 to 10% of the Egyptian population would have been literate. It would have only been the highest officials' sons who would have been trained as scribes and gone on in some scribal career, either as part of the government, the priesthood, or the military. The earliest scribal education probably happened from father to son within the family. It would have been taught within the family from a father who was a scribe. Later, in the Middle Kingdom and through the New Kingdom and later periods, there were schools that the high officials would send their children to learn to become scribes. After a short period of education, the scribes would then be part of an apprenticeship with a master scribe before they went on to a future career. The ancient Egyptians wrote on any material available to them, including stone, pots, linen, animal skins, and perhaps most famously, papyrus. The papyrus plant grew along the banks of the Nile and was very common in the delta, in the north section of the Nile. The plant would have been split down the spine and opened up and pounded with a mallet so that it laid flat. They would have done this in one direction horizontally, and then they would have done a second piece vertically and then pounded the two sheets together to make a single sheet of papyrus. Traditionally, Egyptologists have called the side where the fibers are running horizontally the recto of the papyrus. This is typically the side that they would begin writing on, that is the front, and the reverse, where the fibers were going vertically, Egyptologists have called the verso, or the back. In ancient Egypt, there were two main types of pens. From the beginning of writing up until the Ptolemaic period, there was a rush brush that the Egyptians used for writing in ink. This was made from a plant that was a very thin-stalked plant called Junctus acutus, and they would have taken this and actually chewed on the end of the stalk to produce bristles like on a brush, and then they would have written in ink with that brush. Beginning in the Middle Ptolemaic period and into the Roman period, they actually used a pen, a Greek-style pen, which was made from a plant with a much woodier stalk, and the pith of the plant would have been removed and the end sharpened to make a kind of pen. In writing hieratic and demotic, the handwriting scripts of ancient Egypt, the scribe learned to write in groups. That is, signs would have been learned as groups rather than as individual signs. It's not until the scribe went on to the highest part of his education that he learned to write hieroglyphs per se. It is at that time that they would have analyzed their writing as a group of individual signs. These signs would have been placed together in aesthetically pleasing arrangements, and at times, certain signs could be placed in front or behind other signs based on the status of the sign. That is, a sign for the word God or king would come in front of another sign. Other times, small, square signs would be stacked on top of other smaller, flat signs.